Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So we're back in the garage working on the GX470. I've gone through all the maintenance, replacing all the seals and everything, but I still have a few minor oil leaks that I want to address. When I had the VVTi gear and everything out, I should have done the seal inside the VVTi gear. And I discovered after I did all the cam seals and all the other seals with the valve cover and everything, I was still getting a small minor leak, and it's coming from the VVTi seal. So on today's video, we're gonna go ahead and try to take that out and do it while it's still on the car, at least on this motor. Some of the other VVTi motors you can't do this, but I'm gonna attempt to do it on the car today, so stay tuned. So on the motor, I've already taken apart all the covers, the intake and everything. If you guys need to figure out how to do that, check out some of my other videos when we did the whole maintenance deal. So the only thing I need to do now is remove these covers, and it gives me access to the gear and some of that space where I can actually find and work on this thing on the vehicle. Same with this side. Originally I thought we weren't really leaking over here, but after driving this 3,000 or 4,000 miles, I'm seeing some seepage down there. So we're gonna go ahead, take this cover off on this side too and take care of it. But I'm gonna try to do it all on the vehicle so that I don't have to take all this other crap apart or even the valve covers or anything. So to take these covers off, they're pretty much 10 millimeters all the way around. This side's fairly easy. I think it's 4 of them. On this side, it's a little bit more difficult. There's a few bolts and 10 millimeters nuts and everything that you gotta take apart. Plus you got this radiator hose in the way that kind of blocks everything. But other than that, you can still take this cover off. This side has a sensor and a harness that you have to deal with, but other than that, you should be able to remove it all on the vehicle. All right, so I got that cover off. So this thing has 3 10 millimeter bolts around the edge, and then 1 nut and a stud right here in the middle that you have to do, and it comes right out. As far as the bolts go, there's one right here, one right there, and the hardest one is underneath there. This one right here should be fairly easy to get to if you have a wrench or a gear wrench to get to that. On the car side, as you can see I'm still getting a leak here, and all this residual oil right here that comes out of this thing. I'm suspecting it's from the VVTi O-ring inside of here leaking to the back of the actual cam gear right here. That's causing the problem. I've got this open, and I just realized that this thing is a special 5-star screw or 5-star Torx bit, which is not anything that I own, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and order one of these. But right now I'll just go ahead and take off both sides and just have this ready until I get that tool to take care of it. This side's a little bit harder to do because you gotta do all these harnesses and everything in the way, as well as the coolant tube that's sitting in front of it. But once you unbolt all of that, this thing should slide out pretty easily. On this side, taking all the bolts and everything is much easier, but the pain on the ass over here is all the harnesses that you have to undo, and then all the little clips that you have to pop out of the plastic cover. And then the last thing you have is that wire harness right here, so you just pull it away and you push the plug through, and you can still leave the sensor. It's the cam position sensor or the cam gear sensor on this side. You can leave it in place and pull the plastic cover out. So that's hanging by that thread right now before I take it out. So I just wanted to show that to show you guys how to get into here without taking everything else apart. All right, the star security bits come. So the bit we're gonna need is the 30 IPR right here. It's a 5-point safety bit or a 5-point security bit right here with the little center, but this thing fits perfectly into the 5-point bolts on here. So basically goes into there, and these aren't really torqued that tight. I think when we originally torqued these guys over here, they were like something like 5 or 10 foot-pounds. It was really light, so you should be able to break this with a regular 1/4-inch ratchet right here. So before you start, just in case, you want to set everything to top dead center. So you want to check your timing there and your timing marks right here, and also over here that everything's at top dead center. The one thing I wanted to do was try to get the belt lined up right here where you originally install it, but it's almost damn near impossible to spin this thing and hit this spot correctly, because it takes several hundred rotations just to get to that spot, because every time you rotate it actually shifts the actual teeth, so the chances of hitting that every time around is damn near impossible. Trust me, I tried turning the starter and then turning it by hand, and it's impossible. So this is close enough. I'll go ahead and mark this in case anything happens with timing, so we get it back to this tooth. Same with this side. I'll mark the arrow with the spot on the sprocket in case I have to do any kind of timing changes or take the timing belt off. On other designs of the VVTi gear, you actually have to take this apart and the bolt out. On this particular one, I'm not even sure if you need to do this, because from what I remember, it seemed like it was 2 pieces, but I'll go ahead and remove this outer nut. It's actually not torqued in that tightly, and we'll see if we have to remove the center one or not that keeps the tube connected to the cam. So we'll go ahead and take this off. Make sure we have a bunch of rags and everything down here to catch all the oil that's going to come out. All right, I was able to unbolt all 4 of those bolts. They came off pretty easily once you break them. The thing didn't pop out, so maybe this thing is holding it in. I'm not sure. I'm gonna go try to tap it, see if I could break it loose. If not, I'm gonna go ahead and try to remove that Allen key right here. All right, I was able to tap it a little bit and then kind of just pry it out with the flathead. So what I see right now that's gonna look tricky is, see inside, there's some little spacers right there along each one of these, and they look like they're just compression, because if I move it, I can see them moving. So I'm afraid if I pull this whole thing out, it's gonna cause those things to fall down, and I don't know how I'm gonna get it back in there in this position. So I'm gonna be very delicate and careful with this as far as trying to pull it out, because I can see the O-ring right there. That's the O-ring that usually leaks in here. All right, so we got the cap off right here. As you can see, there is actually no O-ring left in here. This thing is literally deteriorated. We'll show you on the car side, and look like there's some black stuff there, but there's no O-ring whatsoever. So on the vehicle side, these are the spacers I was worried about falling out right here. They're like little springs that go into here, and there's also a little metal thing that you have to be very careful with, that it stays back in there because it acts as a spring. And I think I dropped the bottom one right here along with the spring. But right here is the O-ring, and this thing is literally gone. This thing is not there anymore. It's just deteriorated mush right now. So yeah, that's the cause of my oil leak so far on this thing. So yeah, definitely I should have done this when I had the cam off. I didn't even know about this. Well, I knew about the VVTi. I didn't know it was an issue on this vehicle. But yeah, definitely should have done this off the vehicle, would have been much easier. Now I got to deal with it at this angle and try to get everything back together without damaging anything. So I thought there was no seal or deteriorated, but I'm moving around in here and it's actually recessed into the groove, the seal, the original seal. It's right now it's just full of so much buildup and varnish here that it looks like there's no seal and it's just the channel, but it's actually in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to pick it out with a pick tool. So I started chiseling away with a little tiny flathead. I got like a quarter of it out and the rest of it just popped off pretty easily there. So pretty much we got everything out. We just need to go ahead and clean it. I sprayed it down with a little bit of brake clean, just let it soak in a little bit, put some brake clean on a rag and just try to scrub as much as you can, get the surfaces as clean as we can in here before we put it all back together. So these are the O-rings I ordered on eBay right here. They were a total of $15 with tax. And I just wanted to double check just to make sure the diameter was right. And it's exactly perfect with what we need. So I'll go ahead and clean all this up and try to get this thing back together in that horizontal position. So if you saw one of my other old videos on the 2UZ doing the VVTi, what you want to do for these is before you put it in, you want to kind of stretch it, but not stretch it too much. Just kind of give it a little bit of a pull just to get it a little bit bigger than the actual hole so it can actually fit, because they come a little bit smaller than the diameter. And then you want to grease it up with a little bit of oil before you try to fit it into that ring in that recess area. So shout out to the other YouTube video that I actually found after I did all this. I realized that what I wasn't doing was I needed to put some grease on that O-ring to actually keep it in that channel. He recommended on that other video using Vaseline. You can check out the links to his video down in the description, but he goes into a very detailed and zoomed up install of this with the timing belt removed, where I'm doing it with the timing belt on. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and use that grease. I'm gonna also use that grease to hold some of the parts in those little springs and spacers right there so that they don't fall out also. So I didn't even think of that. Over here I cleaned out the front cap right there of all the old sludge and grease and oil that was trapped in there. I got all those little springs all ready to go. Pretty much all 8 of these will go in. The only one that I'm worried about is the one that's turned straight to the bottom, because that one's got gravity acting on it that's gonna pull it out. Once I use that grease, that O-ring holds up into that race in that channel pretty easily and it doesn't slip out, so that's perfect for lining up that thing. And then also when you put in those little springs on the side and the bottom, it actually holds it in pretty well too. So really good hack there to just keep everything straight while we're trying to reassemble everything. The next thing you do is you go ahead and put all those little springs in there. Just make sure you get a good greasing on the diagonal and the ones down there so they actually hold. And then you want to tilt them forward so they go in and they tilt forward here, because you have to put that machined in right here. Once it goes through, it will actually fix itself because it's on a little pivot teeter-totter spring. So that's what you want to do. And then you want to double check, make sure your O-ring is still seated in the channel and the race. and go ahead and put the cap on there gently. Once you get it past all those springs starting at the bottom, everything else just slides right in, and tighten the bolts up. All right, I got it on there. Before I tightened everything down, I actually sprayed some silicone back there, WD-40 silicone, just to get it into that O-ring and get it to move around. And then I kind of wiggled this thing back and forth just to shake it while the bolts were still loose, just to make sure that O-ring was seated in the actual channel correctly. And then I slowly crisscross bolted it to make sure it was all tight. I think I'm confident that the O-ring is in the channel. We'll find out if this thing starts spewing oil or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this thing up, and we'll do the other side on a time lapse. The driver's side cam is a big pain in the ass just because this thing's in the way, yeah, you got plenty of room, but yeah, just this pipe's in the way. I really wish I would have did this when it was off camera, but yeah, trying to get the seal just lined up is also difficult because this side, the cam gear, also has different edges right here, so it's a little bit harder and more recessed in compared to the other side because of the cam gear itself on the outside. This thing, I cleaned it all up. It was all clogged up with sludge and everything, just like the other side. Got everything cleaned up with some super clean and some brake clean just to make sure everything's clean in there. There is still a little bit, but most of that will probably burn off or wear off over time. So I found the easiest way is once we get it into here, you could just go ahead, like I said earlier, just kind of wiggle it around. If you want to, you can also put that hex bolt right into here and then move it because it's a VVTi, so the cam is going to move inside of this thing. You just got to make sure where you made your timing mark that you tighten it back onto that exact timing mark. But once you do that, you could kind of feel when that O-ring sets because this thing goes flush. So one of the things you gotta be careful of doing when you're doing these O-rings and making sure it's seated properly, if you tighten it down and you don't have it in the channel or in the race, this is what happens. It just smushes it and then you're gonna end up having a leak there. So make sure you use that grease or Vaseline to keep it in place and then stretch your O-ring out to make sure it fits in that channel perfectly before you tighten it down. But yeah, this is what happens when that happens. This one's really bad. This one was on one spot, so just make sure it's in that channel properly. So after I screwed up those first two eBay O-rings, I ended up ordering these O-rings right here off of Amazon. For a pack of 10 of them, they were the same price as those two from eBay, so I really recommend these. These are actually better quality, harder, and they fit much better in the channel versus those ones from eBay. The eBay ones are very stretchy and soft. These are actually Viton DuPont versions with 90 durometer thickness and hardness, so recommend trying these out to see how well they work. So I went ahead and did a couple test drives for like 10 miles just to see if the seals sealed up, and everything looks pretty good as far as oil leaks and everything. So I'll continue to monitor the bottom and the sides and all around here to see, make sure there's no additional oil leaks or new oil leaks. One of the things I discovered was my VVTi solenoid right here, the oil control valve. It's got a little hairline crack, so it's actually kind of seeping right there as far as oil goes, and it's throwing a P0012 light right now. So I'm about to get that fixed to resolve that issue. Hey guys, thanks for joining me all the way to the end of this video on changing that seal on the VVT-i Cam Gear. I had ordered that seal on eBay, but after finishing this project and doing some more research, I found out that that's just a generic O-ring that you could get from McMaster, or also on Amazon as a 5 or a 10 pack for about the same price as getting 2 off of eBay. So I'm gonna go ahead and link all those down in the description if you guys need those same O-rings. They're the Viton O-rings, which are oil resistant and are gonna last much longer. But as you can see, it's a very straightforward change out, especially on the GX470 and the 4.7 liter VVTi engine. This thing is much easier to do than some of the older VVTis where you have to take all the gears apart. If you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to your channel, go ahead and subscribe to your channel, turn on bell notifications, get notified every time I upload a video. For all these different projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.